right, we're live on YouTube. Alrighty, we'll be getting started soon. Thank you all for joining in early. It's right on the hour, so we'll give it a few minutes as people trickle in. And for now, just enjoy the tropical house music. Thomas Jack taking you back to like, I don't know, what is that, 2014, 2015, 2016. Back when house and music was fun. Not to say that it's not fun, but yeah, somewhat tropical house music could be timeless. So enjoy. We'll be get starting in a few minutes. Okay, it's 7:01. We can get somewhat started. We got 50 people listening in. So yeah, and we got people coming in on Twitter. People are going to start trickling in as we get started here. This week we have a very special guest. He's a stand-up comedian, but on the side he does OtterSec. And yeah, Robert, want to introduce you, but also want you to introduce yourself. I would say one of the world's foremost best move auditors, world's foremost security experts, has audited a lot of projects, a lot of core protocols. I'll let him go into the details of this, but we're really happy to be working with Robert. Really excited to have him here. I know he likes to do stand-up comedy, so maybe we'll get that side of him as well here. But yeah, Robert, go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. I don't have any jokes prepared at the moment, but maybe I'll think of some as we go. But yeah, I help run OtterSec. We're a smart contract auditing firm. We look a lot at the internals of Move, and we try to have a deep understanding of both like the VM layer as well as application specific SDK layer. And with that, we try to be able to guarantee certain aspects of security to the people that we work with. I guess in the past, we work closely with large institutions like Alameda Research, Jump Crypto. We also have container arrangements with Solana Foundation to audit their core code, for example. But yeah, I'm just excited to, I guess, in this space, talk more about what makes Move such an exciting language, and also how we're working with Pontem to secure their applications, because Pontem definitely has a lot of stuff, but they have a good focus on security as well.
Awesome, thank you. Maybe we can get started there. Move in our applications. We'll definitely dive into all that. But tell me, what excites you about Move? How is it different? How is it the same? What are some paradigm shifts that you see, especially in the area of security? That's one of the biggest value propositions we've heard. But how do we make it tangible? How do we make it real?
Yeah, actually, this is a really good question. This is, I guess, a bit of alpha, but we're actually going to publish a blog post on this very subject in probably a few days. But yeah, I think Move as a language is very exciting. It's one of the main cells for moving on to Aptos and Sui. I would call Move perhaps as like Rust for blockchain. I'd say it's more domain specific, right? Which means that it's able to avoid a lot of the general purpose issues that Rust has. For example, you don't need to manually serialize or deserialize data when you're using Move. It's a much higher level language. And I think that just gives developers more tools to be able to write more secure programs. I won't dive too deeply into. Is this supposed to be a technical space? I can dive more deeply the technical aspects if you want, or I can just
Hey,
keep it high level.
zoom in and out as much as you want. I'm sure there's tech people out there. Probably like 80-20%. So but feel free to zoom in and out. We got to make this stuff accessible for everyone. So if there's words that I don't understand, there's likely words people out there that don't understand either. So I'll tap in there. I'll double click there. But feel free to let your mind explore there.
Yeah, okay. So I guess like one really cool specific aspect of move is I think the VM is extremely so one example of this is that references are natively available in the it's like references are a first class value in the move virtual machine itself. So for example, you can actually in the bytecode you can actually push a reference on the stack, and you can also dereference a reference directly. So I guess an implication of this is, when you want to call a function, you don't need to pass in like a pointer or any like low level thing. You directly pass in a reference that is well typed and can be used by the function that you're calling. Yeah, so I guess in general, move is like a much more domain specific, blockchain specific, high level language, which I think resolves a lot of security issues that we see in normal programming.
Let's decompile that a little bit more. What does it mean to be a first class value? Is that like is that like flying first class versus coach? What's the analogy here?
Yeah, that's a good question. So first class just means it's supported natively by the virtual machine. So I guess in contrast, deserializing data with Rust, for example, you need to be able to like have some sort of intermediate representation for that value, or some sort of representation to convert from the underlying bytes into what your program uses. And usually this is some format like Borscht. I guess Move uses BCS, but I mean, it's like another stable deserialization format essentially. But you need to have this intermediate step where you convert from like the raw binary data to a usable Rust value. On the other hand, Move just ignores the step completely. It can just use the value directly.
Nice. So help me understand this a little bit more. Like is ETH native? Is, let's say, the compound or uni token, is that a first class citizen? How does that compare on Ethereum?
Yeah, so I mean, for ETH, for example, you would have a contract, and then you would need to have a mapping to load the values, right? So you actually don't have first class access to the higher level struct itself. Like you can't really pass in a reference to like a token, for example, right? You would need to call the contract.
So I have to call a contract like an ERC20 contract. Is that am I
Yeah.
understanding it?
Yeah.
Does that
I mean, I guess in Move Tech, you also have to call the contract because the resource is private.
right.
But yeah,
Is it more
like
efficient?
semantic.
Is it more efficient as well?
Yeah,
On top of safety, do I save on gas?
yeah. I mean, Move as a well, I guess that part is a little separate from like the gas savings, right? I think Move as a language is designed to be very fast and scalable, so the cost for users should also be lower.
Nice.
I mean, although gas is kind of like a VM native concept, so like Move gas is like entirely different, is denoted in different units than like say Ethereum gas or Solana gas. I mean, Solana doesn't have gas, or like near gas, right?
Interesting.
But I think like for end users, it'd be
So let's put this. Let's take this and maybe like comparison a little bit more abstractly. Like what I mean, I like to say that at Pontem here we're move maxis, right? Move as you rightly pointed out could potentially be safer, more efficient. So what would happen if we were to put these side by side? Let's say it on something like Cosmos or Polkadot, one of these heterogeneous chains. Which one would do better, the Move VM or the EVM, and what aspects? What should we be tracking?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, in theory, you could write safe contracts in any language, right? I mean, there are, many examples of, I'd say, probably pretty safe contracts, um, like across Ethereum, across Cosmos, across like any chain. But I think the main sell for me is that Move is safer by default. Like it lets you write safer contracts without trying as hard or without paying as much attention.
Hmm.
Of course, this isn't to say that you shouldn't pay any attention. It's just that it helps avoid a lot of the foot guns that you might see in Solidity or other languages.
You're saying it's way harder for me to shoot myself in the foot, essentially. Um,
Yeah. Hopefully, no guarantees, but
it's still, yeah, you're still
ideally,
playing with fire, right? Either way, or maybe like a large
yeah. Well,
shotgun.
yeah,
Well, maybe
yeah, like
once,
a
maybe Ethereum is a large shotgun, and the Move VM is like a sniper rifle or something. Maybe just a little bit safer from afar.
I don't know if a sniper rifle is safer. I feel like maybe like a small pistol would be a better analogy.
Like
Although,
the James
yeah,
Bond pistol.
it's like, yeah, it's like it's hard. You have to like try a bit harder to shoot yourself in the foot, but then you can still do it if you're
versus
not paying any attention.
Alex Baldwin's onset gun, right?
Yeah,
Maybe that's the
yeah,
EVM.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's safe by default. I think that's kind of the main sell for me. Especially, I mean, I know Pontem cares a lot, but to be honest, I think there's a lot of smart contract developers that either don't care a lot about security or don't understand the full implications, or they just write code that they deploy to mainnet as fast as possible,
Hmm.
and that often ends up shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's definitely part of the process, right? That's definitely important as well, not just the code, but also the teams and the developers. So how can people really, especially the users, the end users, really make sure that they're not getting affected, by these unintended consequences of shooting each other in the feet, right? What are best practices there for projects? What should our users out there be looking out for to make sure that they're safe in the metaverse?
Yeah, I mean, I think the primary thing that you can do as a user is to stay vigilant. So, I mean, there's a lot of projects, but it's kind of important to ensure that the ones that you interact with are actually, reputable and safe and have gone through the process of, working with a professional audit firm and getting their contracts audited. I think that's probably the best way to mitigate the risk of security vulnerabilities. Of course, audits aren't perfect, right? So there's always a chance that you can miss something. But the general position or the team's posture towards security is really important. And just having a team that cares about security is like a lot more makes me a lot more confident in their protocol than a team that just really watchfully pushes stuff to production. I guess one thing that specifically you can look out for is the commit on the GitHub repository versus the commit in the audit report. Um,
Hmm.
and if it's different, you should maybe ask a few more questions about if there's like an ongoing engagement with the team, or if the protocol is just pushing stuff to production or to GitHub without really consulting on those additional fringes.
Hmm. Is there some way that we as a protocol can maybe trustlessly do that? Like, can we? Is there some attestation that you as a auditor can make to say like, hey, this last version that's live right now on GitHub or it's live right now on the
Mm-hmm.
chain, is that the one that I audited? Like, is there a way that potentially maybe in the wallet or some other place where we can catch attestations or signals? Like, is
Mm-hmm.
there a way for people to just trust like, oh, hey, this one's audited and it's good, it's green, I can use it?
Yeah, I mean, on all our audit reports, and we'll be producing some for Pontem soon. But in all our audit reports, we have the commit hash, which was stamped by us, which we reviewed. But actually, the wallet integration is a good idea, and we are talking with a couple of wallets. I think it would be really cool if natively in the wallet app, there was some way for users to see that, hey, this code on chain is actually the exact one that was approved by an auditor, and that could be done by, for example, just comparing the hash of
Nice.
like the code on chain,
All right, that sounds like a
which
good
I think would be
feature.
really cool too.
Yeah, that sounds like a good feature we can add to our roadmap.
Yeah, yeah, I feel like that'd be very useful for users actually, right?
Hmm.
And then ideally, you could have some sort of option even where it's like if users want to go fully trusted mode, they only interact with contracts that have been completely verified. And this way that you know too if the contract has changed underneath you.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a really good idea. Let's definitely take that offline and figure out how we can make that into a feature. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
this is also a good pivot into wallet security. Given
Mhm.
that the wallet is the interface, or maybe let's call it the I don't know. Yeah. So what I think of wallets as just the front end, right? The front end to this metaverse.
Mhm.
The metaverse somewhat being the internet that we move through day to day. But now with this,
Mhm.
we can move value around, and it's really a really powerful tool. Previously we could
Mhm.
only move value around through credit cards and bank intermediaries and quote unquote wires, which are really um, I suppose just the same rails that we've been using for 100 years, right? Like when you send a wire, you're literally sending a telegraph wire. Maybe that's why it takes 3 days
Mhm.
for it to reach someone. But yeah, tell me more. What should we be looking out for wallet security? I know. So not to I'll write this down, but not to get too in the weeds. We'll touch these topics. One is there's recently been hacks, right? So let's address that elephant in the room
Mhm.
of what happened in Solana. Maybe you can give us some of your opinions there and
Mhm.
how people, users, and projects can protect themselves and protect the users. And two, what do you think about the wallet as an interface, getting rid of the browser as an intermediary? Right, we've seen some DNS hacks. Curve Finance, one of the biggest apps on Ethereum, was recently hacked. There, is the wallet safer? Should we get rid of the intermediary? Should we start putting wallets in our faces and in our brains so that we don't have to trust the browser?
Yeah. I think there's two main questions to unpack here. Right? First is wallet security, and then second is the role of wallets. I'll get to them one by one. I mean, I think the first question, I personally think that wallet security has kind of been flying under the radar for a long time, to be honest, right? You know, people care a lot. They see a lot that um, the apps have been compromised potentially, but no one really notices, or at least prior to this, you know, the Solana events, no one really cared about if wallets have been audited. Which, if you think about it, doesn't make that much sense because wallets are essentially your bridge into this entire world of crypto. And if that centralized bridge gets compromised, then everything that you interact with also potentially could get compromised, right? It's like a single point of failure to everything that you interact with. Um, and I guess specifically talking about the Solana events, we were actually working like with the teams involved. We have retained with Solana Foundation, so we were working with Phantom and Slope to try to figure out what actually happened. And we did publish a report on our findings, which you can find on our Twitter account. But I think the summary of it was there were mnemonics or secret keys that were logged accidentally. Um, and we believe or we suspect or we think that that could have led to the compromise of user keys. Um, I think the takeaway from those events specifically is that you have to be very careful when handling sensitive user data. You have to make sure that that data isn't ending up somewhere accidentally. And actually, in the case of Slope, it was actually a pretty subtle accident. Like they weren't intentionally trying to log it. It just accidentally got stored in a data. Sorry, it got stored in an object, which ended up getting sent to the server. But there was like several layers of abstraction that they didn't really either take the time to figure out or they didn't notice until it was too late. So
Is that
um,
is that something
it's
that
it's
is
I
that
definitely
something? Oh, sorry. Is that something that could have been caught in something like an audit report? Is that something you think you would have caught?
yeah I think yeah, but I think you'd have to be looking for it specifically, right? I
Hmm.
think for devs, you have to be very careful when you're doing this kind of stuff. Like you either need to have an external firm who's like specifically focusing on what to look for, or you need to like spend a lot of time looking for these kinds of edge cases where sensitive user data might be passed around in ways that you don't intend it to. Yeah, I think in general though, this is kind of I think a wake up sign or a wake up call for wallets in general. That there's a lot of wallets, and to be honest, a lot of them don't care that much about security. Right? We've found and reported issues actually to a number of wallets outside of Soap and Phantom, and it's yeah, it is a bit concerning. But we've also seen that some of the wallets that we worked with in the past um, have been improving their posture, and hopefully, with events on Solana, there will be more of a focus on security on the wallet side as well.
Wow. So this is actually pretty scary, right? Like the central point of failure, for example, how many people use MetaMask over, I don't even know what other wallets exist in Ethereum, right? That's a problem. That's an issue for centralization on even like validators and block builders, right? If they're sending all the information to the same Infura node, or that's also potentially an issue. But how do we solve this problem? Is there a such thing as a decentralized wallet? Should we all be going in the CLI ourselves? Can we implant the private key in our brains and just log in? What's the solution here?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I personally think the solution would be, just to as users push for more of a focus on security, right? Like only work with wallets that have a strong security partner to ask questions about what the wallet has done to ensure its security. I mean, potentially you could have a decentralized wallet. I'm not really sure how that would work. I guess one consideration is that the code for the wallet needs to be somewhat centralized, right? Like I'm not really sure if you can really have a decentralized wallet code base. I mean, maybe you could have like multiple front ends or something, but at the same, there's always going to be like a single point or points of failure, I think, for the user.
Yeah, we can discuss that later. How do we make a wallet decentralized, right? Maybe the computation needs to happen in some not AWS server, but I don't know. We can think about it. That's a pretty interesting thought. Yeah. Cool. So do you think maybe wallets should be as thorough in their audits and as public in their reports as smart contract dApps? This is interesting, right? Because we're vertically integrated, so we're thinking about security end to end. But potentially wallets think, hey, I'm not a contract. I don't need to pay all this for audits, right? So yeah, what's a good best practice here for projects so that users can feel safe using all the products?
Yeah, I mean, I personally think that wallets are just as, if not more important than the apps in terms of their security, right? We need users to be confident that the wallet they're using won't like accidentally sign a transaction that they don't want to sign. That it correctly shows all the transactions. Actually, there was some interesting research, not that someone else did, not that we did, on if you could figure out as a contract that you're in a simulation, like we have like an RPC simulate call, and then you can change your behavior based on that. Of course, you shouldn't really be interacting with contracts that you don't trust, but it's also an interesting question of can you really trust what is happening at the simulation level? Although I don't know if that's a wallet vulnerability per se. I'd say that's more like a VM design concern.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think wallets definitely need to care a lot about security, and users should push for the security of the wallets that they use. Like at the end of the day, the impetus, the need for security has to come from the users, right? If users don't care about security, then wallets aren't going to care about it either. But if users demand security, then wallets are going to have an incentive to get their code audited.
Interesting. I just had a thought. What if people just download and run the wallet themselves? Right? Like it's not sending any information anywhere. Could that potentially work? It might be onerous on the user, but
Yeah, I guess what would download and run the wallet yourself mean, or how would that be different from downloading like a Chrome extension and then using that?
Yeah, I mean, maybe going back to the hack that happened on Slope, was that information being sent to like an AWS server, or was it just being exposed in a way that anybody, even if it was running locally, could have access to it?
Oh yes, that was being sent to an AWS server, and actually because of that was because they were logging information to help with user metrics.
Right, right.
Like the use case was they want to understand what users are doing. So yeah, I guess if you had like a local version where you weren't sending any data off, then that could definitely mitigate some vulnerabilities.
Okay.
Um,
So just build your own wallet. Maybe. Okay.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, hire out your own team, build your own wallet.
Yeah,
Or
but
you know,
maybe it's some framework where even though you might need like extra compute on your computer or phone or whatever, you don't need to
mhm,
like trust any third
mhm,
party to send stuff to, right? I mean, I mean, this is part of the ethics on Web 2 versus Web 3, right? Like Web 2, you want to track
mhm,
everything, you want to see where users are clicking. All these logs can be
mhm,
useful for improving the product, but it's also a double-edged sword, right? You can
mhm.
also cut your head off
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah, definitely. I think even in Web 2, there's like a huge amount, there's a lot of concern around logging sensitive data. Although it's not, the issue is like in Web 2, it's not like a direct loss. Like if you, even if you steal a bunch of usernames and passwords, you don't have like direct access to money, right? Versus in Web 3, if you have someone's wallet private key, you can just drain their funds immediately.
Yeah.
Which is why I think, Web 3 is much scarier when it comes to financial risk.
Yeah, that makes sense. This is really good feedback. Honestly, in all websites, we probably shouldn't be logging anything, emails or even
Hmm.
IP addresses or anything, sending that to any AWS server. Like I know it's useful. Even like Google
Hmm.
Analytics, interesting. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Well, we can
Yeah.
talk about that. Yeah. How do you just make the simplest thing that collects the least amount of information possible, so that no user, there's not even a leak because you're not collecting anything.
Yeah, and actually, I think that's also good for users, right? Like ideally, you for users, you don't want your data tracked by some third party provider. So like minimizing that also has the unintended positive side effect of minimizing, which I think this like broader issue of like, corporate tracking of users.
Yeah.
Um,
And there's even concerns here beyond just leaking your personal information. There's also potentially MEV. So for those of you that don't know what MEV is, minor extracted value, where decentralization or central point of failure means that these wallets have a lot of information that could be very valuable for traders that might be trying to make some money based on the trades that you're making. So
mhm.
your people are
Yeah.
probably familiar with like high frequency trading and I don't even know, it's Web 2, just traditional finance. The same issue of what people call quote unquote front running, or back running, or sandwich attacks, or liquidity sniping, or I don't know, all the other forms of, uh, yeah, minor extracted value. It seems, and especially here in this conference here in Stanford, it seems to be a big topic. So yeah, I want to hear your thoughts on that as well.
Yeah. I think definitely if you have some information leakage, potentially that could allow someone to exploit that. Although, at least from my experience, it seems that MAV mostly happens with on-chain public data. Like most of the profits are either looking at the mempool or they observe what's been happening on-chain and they try to use that to profit.
But
I guess
don't the
one
wa-
common example would be like liquidation.
don't the wallets act as like maybe like a transmitter of this information? Like if we're all sending it to the, like, let's say one wallet is sending it all to the same validator, the same block builder, doesn't that block builder can then sell the kind of like the order of the transactions, like and sell what is called
Hmm.
paid for order flow, where like let's say it's more
Yeah.
profitable for me to have this transaction be ahead of this transaction. Like wouldn't I be able
Mhm.
to, let's say hypothetically I'm a, you know, I don't want to say evil, because there's definitely value in arbitraging with front running and some of the stuff. In high frequency trading, the regulators allow it for a reason, because it makes markets more efficient, even though we're all paying a cost for it. And this is why Robinhood allows you to have zero fee trades. But anyway, as a wallet, right? You could be Robinhood, right? You could be stealing from your users and giving it to the large citadels of the world. Inverse Robinhood, I guess. But yeah, I mean that seems to be at least what is being talked about as a monetization strategy for wallets, right? Like, hey, use our thing for free, but we'll allow other people to front end you, so you're actually getting cost in other places. Some solutions I think might be like fee rebates, like, hey, you're getting front run, but here's the money back. So that could be one option. But like, I mean, either way, I think you just need to be transparent, right? If there are AWS servers, someone needs to pay for those AWS servers, so there needs to be some monetization. Nothing in this world is free. But potentially there's ways to make MEV on the wallet front safer. But yeah, I want to hear your thoughts, because it does seem like they're kind of like not a gatekeeper per se, but the transactions go through them and they get to choose which validators pick them up, right?
Yeah, I think payment for order flow for wallets is definitely a pretty interesting. I don't know if any wallets do that right now. I haven't looked too deeply into it, so it's possible. I guess my initial thoughts is that it's also like, I feel like the validators probably wouldn't be the ones doing MEV. It would probably be like external searchers, right? So if the wallet were to do it, it'd connect to some marketplace or some streaming, like for example, Flashbots, right, where it could stream the transactions, and then like miners or like searchers could submit bundles.
Yep.
At least that's how I think I would structure it. I mean, I also don't think wallets should be doing this, to be honest. I feel like it kind of violates the trust between them and users, right?
I mean, I think the argument is that someone's going to be doing it because they know that it's flowing through there. Why not have it be I guess that's the argument for Flashbots, right? It's like, if this is happening, let's just put it on chain and allow a efficient market to evolve around it. Let's allow frameworks for ethics to evolve around it. So maybe we allow this type of MEV and not this type of MEV, right? So I think it's like it's the Wild West out there, right? People are shooting themselves in the foot everywhere. People are cutting each other's heads off. There's shotguns. There's James Bond's pistols going around. How do we create a safe saloon where if you're gonna get front run, at least you're getting paid back for it, right, or something, right? Because someone's gonna do it. Why not let the cowboys that have your best interest in mind let you do it?
Yeah, that's fair. I guess I'm also not sure if the order flow is important or the ordering on the block is the more important part. I mean, I think they're both important, but I think most of the rewards would end up going to the validators themselves, right? Because they control both the order flow, because they receive all the transactions, but also the ordering, which is like the final, like they control what block actually gets produced. And I think that the validators would kind of have a monopoly on that.
Yeah.
I
mean,
I
guess
guess it's kind of
the issue is, right, if everybody's using MetaMask and MetaMask is by default sending it all to the same validators, then that seems like a conflict of interest. Maybe there's a way to kind of randomize who you send the transactions to, but then that might also make your transaction go by a lot more slowly. But I don't know. Just a thought.
Yeah, but I also personally just think like the optics of payment for order flow, right? Like there's a huge mess on Reddit over that. Like I just think it's like not a great thing to do, or I mean, I think it's kind of risky in terms of how users perceive it.
Yeah, I mean, I see two options, right? Like, you either charge some form of fee so that people kind of pay up front for the AWS servers, right? Or people don't see the fee, but they're paying a spread, let's call it, right? So like, I mean, either way, you just need to be transparent on what the costs are, and then let the users decide. Could be opt in, opt out.
Yeah. I think as long as users understand and know the aspects of like what is actually happening, right? I think then that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just needs to be properly communicated to users.
Yeah. Cool. Let's change gears here a little bit. We have a lot of questions that came in. I don't know if we're gonna have time for all of it. I see people also raising their hands and wanting to come up. Maybe we allow one person to come in and then maybe we go to others. But yeah, it's always fun. Gives me a little bit of anxiety when we let people up, but it's kind of fun. So let's give it a shot. You know what it feels like? It feels like one of those radio shows back in the 80s or 90s, talking about people's dating lives. My I'm trying to call Lindy here. Her favorite song is "In the Mist." Can you please play that for her? Let her know that I love her. Okay, so Hokey.
We should do that here.
Yeah, exactly. So Hokey24, please, we're gonna let you up. Let us know what your request is, which song you want to hear, who you want to give a shout out to, and what's your question? Robert and I are here. Okay, so Hokey24, HOKI24, we're letting you up to speak. Anticlimactic. Okay, maybe they don't come up, but anybody who wants to come up, just raise your hand, and yeah, we'll let you up. But okay, in the meantime, if they come in, we'll let them in. If not, let's go through some of the other questions first. So okay, some of these can be somewhat quick, so we can do a quick fire here. So recently, many large platforms have been compromised by hackers, caused a lot of losses. How's your current security system safe from hackers? So, yeah, I mean, it as we've been talking here, there's a lot of things to consider. Audits, not just on the contracts, but also on the front ends, like the wallets and the websites. Any thoughts here? What are the best ways for a project to be best prepared against hackers?
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, hold on. We have
I
another. Sorry. We have another person. Let's see if this works. Okay. All right, here we go. You're up.
Oh, you guys hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Yep.
Hang on 1 second.
Let us know your shout out. Let us know what song you want to listen to, and we'll play for the users.
Hold on, my speaker just went all wacko.
First, let us know how your dating life is going before you ask any questions.
Oh, you want to hear how my dating life is going?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So, I'm a 52-year-old crypto dude who retired from his job to do this full time. So,
Nice.
I'd say my dating life is not. My standards are pretty high. I need a crypto chick who's cool within 20 years of my age who can give me a kick-ass massage once a week. So I mean, my dating pool is very small.
Okay. Well, we got a lot of listeners here. If anybody there is out there, please.
It sounds to me like the listeners are not within my 20-year rule though, but that's cool. No, I mean, I love this topic about security, especially for a new platform, because my background is in education, and I shifted my education background into the Web3 space, and I'm running cohorts and training developers. And one of the things that we talk about from day one is every different way that you can create secure contracts and create secure infra. And the best answer to this question is, of course, you want those audits and you want those checks, but you got to teach the developers from day one a fairly standardized way to be testing everything along the way. And as much as we want to have that important moment of shipping, and we emphasize that shipping fast, you got to find that fine balance of shipping fast, but also making sure you're shipping strong, good code.
Yeah.
That's safe for the users, because one you misdo a struct, or you, like you were saying a few minutes ago, someone accidentally does something in code and it's not caught, and you're not talking about somebody getting a B on a test. You're talking about billions of dollars. So I think it starts at the beginning with the way you train people to be security minded, not as much as they're ship minded.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point that I think about every day, because coming from a traditional tech background, the ethos is to move fast and break things and then learn from those mistakes and make the process better. But here, if you break things, it's not good. So I've had to contend with this a lot, and we'd love to hear your thoughts, Robert, and also yours. What's your name again? I'm sorry. Or maybe if you want to stay on. Yeah, if you want to stay on, I can just call you Jam.
No, Jeff. My name's Jeff.
Okay, Jeff.
I'm with Web3 Builders Alliance. We are currently on Cosmos. We are coming to the Move networks. Any
Nice.
Rust-based smart contracting language. We offer a master's level cohort, not for beginners, for people that want to be senior developers. So that's my background. You can call me Jeff. I am 100% doxed.
Thanks, Jeff. Awesome. We'll be coming to. We'll actually tested the Move VM on Cosmos in the past. We we forked the Libra VM, made it WASM compatible, and played around with the Cosmos SDK. We also have a Polkadot parachain. So obviously happy to have you here on Aptos. But we'll be coming to Cosmos soon too. Please get in touch with me actually on Telegram or Discord. You can
I'll do that.
Talk to one of our mods. They'll get you in touch. But on this topic of moving fast and breaking things quickly, actually from the Kusama Polkadot ecosystem, I learned that you can actually test in production as long as you tell everybody that's going to be chaotic as hell. So I like this idea of having maybe two versions of apps. One that's immutable, unchangeable. You trust that nobody has any form of multi-sig access to it. It's out there, it's in the world, nobody can change it. There might be stuff wrong with it, hopefully not, because it's gone through audits. And that's your quote unquote production ready version. That's what you want everybody to use. But what about a fork of that that's upgradable, that you can ship things fast, that you tell everybody, hey, this thing may not be fully audited. We're testing it out there. The token is separate. The tokens that are on it are probably separate. Maybe there's some insurance fund so that the TVL around it is somewhat capped. But then that allows us to move quickly, test things out, experiment, break things, break not only the code, but maybe even the game theory behind some of the assumptions that we have. So kind of curious to hear your all thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's an interesting design. I guess my primary concern would be, how do users know which one to use? Or I guess
one would be like ultra, mega, beta, or alpha. The other one would be like, this one's ready.
Yeah, I think the issue is that users don't really know how to evaluate these risks, right? Like, even with smart contracts, it's like very difficult for users to know, like, what, even for us, like, we don't really know what the probability of getting hacked is. And I think in this case, if you have like two versions of the same app, and one is like safer and one is not as safe, I mean, yeah, I guess users that are willing to take on more risk could use like the constantly shipping one. But I think realistically, if any of them got hacked, right, it would still be kind of a PR crisis that you have to deal with.
Well, I think in that sense is more so positioning, like, hey, this thing will get hacked.com versus like this thing is not going to get hacked, hopefully.com. And then just tell people like, hey, and just put giant freaking red disclaimers everywhere and huge alarm bells that say, hey, use at your own risk. You're entering a space for degens. Please do not put any more money than you're willing to lose. Do not put in more than $1 or $100. There's risk adjusted yields here maybe, but you're going into the Wild West here, and then have them click through 10 different 10 different buttons that say that, and then they can access it. Yeah, exactly. You need disclaimers, right?
The incentivized test net's a good model too. I mean, one of the things is if you incentivize people to participate in your test net and to give feedback, and you reward them with useful tokens, you're feeding into the user base with, they can gamify that, they could try to, but it's still benefiting the project testing out. If they want to gamify using the test net to get more tokens, at least they're using it and everybody's winning because you're getting feedback. They're using the test net. They're trying to break stuff. Their goal is to break stuff. Like they win more tokens in the incentivized test net by trying to break your shit.
That's true.
And so, you know, so you actually get, you know, you feed into the users' emotional needs, because no one, you look, the more you say, the more red you put on a screen saying don't use this, the more the total degens are going to come in and use it.
True.
And you know, so it's like you might as well say come and break our shit.
Yeah.
And you know, for every Google form or response that you send, we're going to send you some, you know, some tokens for the real game when that starts. And that way you're basically, you know, you can test as much as you want inside, but that incentivized test net is, and I'm not talking about, you know, run a node and you get and a validator to run a test net. I think there's a tremendous amount of value there as well. But, you know, just that, you know, if it's a game or if it's a deck or whatever it is, you know, come and use it and break it, and we'll give you some tokens.
Yeah.
And it's a negligible amount that you're talking about. If you get 100 people that do that and you give them each 100, that is 0% of an overall supply. But to those people coming and doing it, you now got 100 people coming and testing your stuff and doing their best to try to break it.
Yeah.
And that 100 tokens to them is a lot.
Yeah, that's true. And
Yeah.
you can even put bounties of the other, like, hey, if you do break it, there's this at stake, right?
Totally. The thing about the word bounties, though, I mean, psychologically, you know, I say the word bounty. I wonder how many people on this call think, well, you got to be a dev to do that. You don't necessarily want devs that, I mean, you want devs that come in and try to break your stuff, but you also want regular users
people
to haphazardly use your stuff, and try to break your stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
From a user standpoint, not a technical standpoint.
Yeah, kind of curious on the architecture of this incentivized testnet. So the way that I think about it, there's two ways. You could create a separate network, spin up your own nodes. I think the issue there is that if there's no value flowing through it, there's no spam protection. So this is why I like the idea of just having it shipped on somewhere where there's real value. That's like the Kusama idea, right? So yeah, kind of curious to hear that kind of like incentivized testnet, but maybe in production or live with real value flowing.
So there's I mean, look, there's a couple different versions of how this looks, and look, there's not real value because they're testnet tokens. But the way you create value is, you know, if there's an input of somebody submitting feedback or I broke your stuff,
or wait,
you know,
here.
The output is
the difference is, like, if I launched it on Aptos mainnet, let's say, versus a devnet, then people on Aptos devnet can't spam because they need Aptos tokens to like send transactions, right? So like, let's say a DDoS attack on your devnet is you know, somewhat preventable. People just request tokens from the faucet, or you need to do KYC ML or something like that, right? Which is very onerous and potentially could have privacy implications. So how do we launch this thing in a real environment where the spam protection is there? Potentially, this is where I think you need some form of real world, quote unquote, real world value, but these things could just take a life on its own, where it's like, okay, we'll put some, you know, Aptos pools or something like that, keep it. But yeah, I don't know. I like it. I think it needs to be live in the wild, right? You can't keep it in the lab. Otherwise you're not really like testing all the things that could break, and you're not benefiting from like the spam protection of it being live in the wild. But anyway, sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're totally fine. And look, I mean, you know, for me, a great question, it leads to innovation. So, I mean, I haven't thought through what I'm about to say, but I mean, perhaps what there is that it's not, you know, you play with some sort of made up token. I know that's total blasphemy.
I mean, every token is made up, so
you know,
okay.
but if you know, you're by using it, you're gaining points that can later be redeemed for real value. So for instance, and this is not well thought out, so excuse me, you know, you launch this thing on mainnet, and you know, you can get, you know, faucet funds, but it's limited. You know, like if you try to get some, you know, Rapstein funds off of Ethereum, it's limited. You can't get 1 billion of them like you can on some places. And you go in and play, and you gain points for playing, and then your account has points, and once you hit a certain threshold, you get a prize, a gold star, whatever the heck you want to call it, that you can trade in for real value at some point. That way, again, you're incentivizing, you're getting it on main, and people look. You give the gamification and you give the real value component. Now, this isn't going to attract your DeFi degens because they don't want to play games. But it's going to attract enough people that do want to play games to get you some feedback that you might not otherwise have. It's a model that could work.
Yeah.
I think the concern could potentially be around if that could be bottable, right? I think if you have a token that has real world value, just by using it, it might be possible to fake that usage somehow.
Yeah, I think you just want to prevent the bots from spamming whatever mechanism you have. You need some form of the spam protection is the real world value, right? Like it costs you money, whatever money means, to get ETH or get Aptos or whatever the spam protection of the mainnet is. So I think this idea of tokens as having real world value, obviously more philosophical, but if you just launch something, let's call it Doge coins.
I don't call it Doges.
Doges. Well, I don't know. Cats. Is that what's an animal that isn't taken yet? Hamsters.
Oh, it's feline.
Felines. Yeah. Let's call it felines. Let's just fork. Let's say we form a Bitcoin clone, whatever, right? And we just launch it into the world. Like what is real world value there, right? If someone can spam attack it, then that's probably not real world value. But if someone needs Aptos tokens to spam attack it, then at least there's some. Now you're starting to tie real world value to it, right? Like let's say I'm a bot, I'm a machine or whatever, and I spend $1,000 in gas getting these Doge whatever feline coins. Now this thing is worth $1,000, right? They're like tangibly.
Yeah.
So anyway. But then again, you launch this thing into the world and just kind of see what happens and test out. I think you do need to connect it to like bounties or something to say like, hey, if you do find a bug, if you do find some vulnerability, we'll compensate you because that's important. We want to make sure that these things aren't going into the production version. But
yeah. I think another potential concern is a lot of bugs, I'd say, are edge cases, right? It's like very difficult to find them unless you're intentionally reading through the code. And sometimes it might not even be possible to find them through the UI, right? Like sometimes it might be the UI is safe, right? If you use the UI, but if you like modify the UI a bit or you make your own custom contract call, you're able to exploit things.
Yeah. I guess the one use case that I'm thinking is, let's say Aave is working on a V7, right? Like, how do they know that V7? Let's say they're thinking of some complete new innovation that no one has ever done in the world, and they can get 10 million audits, 10,000 audits, but you need it out in the world for someone to figure out, hey, maybe if I do, this loan with this token and then bring it over from this other bridge and, some weird, more so game theory or economic attack that's not even in the code. Like, how do they test that, without it being live in a real environment, right? Like how, like I'm just thinking, right? If they're going to be publishing a version and trying to push people out there, maybe there's a way to allow people to kind of like test it, quote unquote, live in production in mainnet without actually it being the production version, right? That's the use case, I think.
Yeah.
And is there a way to do this safely?
Yeah, maybe for like economic designs or incentive models, it would make more sense, right? Where then like a layperson could potentially find a design issue.
Yeah, or even the experts, right? Like I would invite you, Robert, to come and hack the V 6.5 or whatever, and everyone else that can think they can hack it. Because at the end of the day, if you do, there should be a bounty. There should be some white hat hacker reward there. So, and that can be the tangible real world value that's attached to it. It's like, okay, if you break it, there's this prize. I think Jeff was saying that, so it's a good idea.
Yeah, I think that could work too.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go for it.
there's a variety of different ways to incentivize communities to look at contracts, right? Or look at contracts, look at designs.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know we're running into the hour. Actually, I'm happy to stay for longer. I don't have anything else after this. So, Robert, if you do have other stuff, feel free to drop, or if you want to stay on, we can tell more jokes here. But yeah, up to you. And Jeff, thank you for coming up. You can stay on if you want. There's Rashid who also wants to come up, so I'll let him up. Wild card bringing people up here. So let's see what happens. Another person. Let's just have a party here. And yeah, I also take song requests, so let me know. Hopefully we don't get IP'd. Oh man, Rashid, he's got the Elon smoking pot with Doge, wearing Bitcoin headphones. Amazing. Okay, you're on mute, Rashid. So let's hear you. If you're talking, you're on mute.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, but we're getting echo.
I hope all the guys is doing a great job here. and great day today.
We're getting a really
So
really
my question,
getting a lot of echo on our end.
yeah,
Rashid, maybe
yeah. Actually,
test your microphone or change microphones.
my question is that what is the vulnerability have you found in auditing? Did you found any vulnerability, or is that is all is okay? Second question is what was the any improvement have you done in the security of protocol, or any development in the security in the protocol? The third one is when the mainnet will be launched. Thank you, sir.
Okay, that was kind of hard to hear. I might try. It's okay. We'll try to unravel it. Robert, did you catch some of that?
I caught the first question. I didn't catch the other two.
Okay. So yeah, I think maybe the first one was like, is there any real vulnerabilities that were caught? And then like, what does that process look like? So, yeah, I mean, I think all of that somewhat comes out into the report as well, and some if there are issues, we work closely with Robert to fix them real time. And yeah, I didn't catch the second one, or maybe Robert, if you did, go ahead.
I did not.
Okay, I think the one that I did catch was, when is it going live?
Yeah. Actually, sir, the second question was any improvement have you done in security of the protocol? Any development in the security of protocol?
This is so trippy, but any vulnerabilities in the security of the protocol? Is that the question? I mean, okay, I'm just gonna guess what the question is. Okay, so if there are vulnerabilities, this is exactly where we work with someone like Robert to help us find those vulnerabilities, fix them, patch them. We publish a public report that anybody can go out and read, so they can feel safe using the products. And it's part of the process of launching these things, especially an entirely new ecosystem. You have to be very careful. And we're also being redundant with auditors. So we're having multiple audits. So sorry, Robert, that we're, hopefully it's not cheating. This is a non-monogamous relationship. But as you would probably approve that it's good that we have redundancy, right? But yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, it's a green new field. We're at the edge of space here. We're going into new galaxies, and we need to be safe as we're flying these spaceships. So when launch, we're going to be ready by day one. Thanks to Robert helping us do these audits. We're also going to be doing a lot of penetration testing on the wallet, as we discussed. That's going to be very important. And yeah, pretty soon you'll be able to use these products on mainnet when Aptos goes live. Right now, everything is live on DevNet. Check out liquidswap.com just to test it out. Okay, thank you for the questions. I still haven't figured out how to get people to, go off the stage. Oh, here we go. All right, sorry, Rishi, I'm going to kick you off the stage. Okay. I think we have other people. If they want to come up, they can. If not, okay. Yeah, if people want to come up, come up. We're at the hour, so we might wrap it up, or we can. There's a bunch more questions, but I'm sure we all have other stuff to do. And this is not Joe Rogan yet. The 3 hours episodes will come later.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll bring up some stand-up comedians and make this more every once in a while more interesting too.
You wanna try some of your puns?
Some of my puns.
Yeah.
I've been working a lot on somewhat the ideals of what a community would be. So there's this idea of community, right? And community as an abstraction can be a commune, right? But communes can be dangerous. Just look at the USSR. Maybe communes idealistically, romantically work out, but not in real life. But what if we could create a commune of sorts, a Pontem commune that is both capitalistic, because this is money, but also idealistic in the sense of us all supporting and loving each other, and having a long-term sustainable economy that continues to grow and add value over time, and an ecosystem of products like a wallet, like a constant function market maker, and other products that we build in the future, the VM, right? So what does this ideal look like? What does this commune look like, Robert? If you were to join this romantic idealist, not a sex cult, commune, what would it look like? By the way, if I know this joke has come up a lot, I don't think it's funny, but it's not a sex cult. It's just a commune. If people want to create a sex cult, they can create a sub DAO for themselves, but not it won't be part of the main DAO. Yeah, it would be a sub DAO sex cult, but not the main one. People need to opt into the sex cult. Yeah. Okay.
Are you gonna be leading that one as well, or
no? That'll be self-governed by whoever wants to lead that.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe we should make that trending on Twitter. Commune.
Commune, hashtag not a sex cult.
You should take that. You should take that. I'll retweet it from the main account.
Oh man, that's some alpha. That's the type of alpha you get after the first hour.
Yeah. No context.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, but yeah, what do you think of these ideals? Someone mentioned. Someone asked the question recently, was like, what is the moat in crypto, right? Like liquidity is borderless. It's the barriers. There's this idea of creating a platform with network effects, and then switching costs being a moat. But the switching costs, that's not good for users, right? People don't want to be vendor locked in. Moving out of your wallet kind of sucks. Moving out of layer ones kind of sucks, but it's all doable within a few minutes. So what is the moat? My answer to that was one, liquidity, because you get better pricing. But again, liquidity can be mercenary. There's very low friction to moving it around. So I think community really is the moat. If you can create this commune of sorts, of this commune community of where people love each other and support each other, and think about each other long term. And I guess it does kind of sound like a sex cult, but without the sex, just just like caring about each other.
I think we talked about.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
You're talking about sex cult part too much.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just a way of like, hey, if we want to support each other long term, what does that look like, right? I mean, it is a marriage of values. It's a marriage of principles, moving forward. So yeah, we're kind of curious to hear how community ties into this. How does that tie into security? But yeah.
I mean, I think user attention is like one of the most sticky things, right? I think a lot for dApps, but especially for wallets, where you essentially monetize the user's landing pages. That's why, for example, MetaMask can charge very high swap fees, relatively high swap fees, and make a bunch of money that way. I think for security, we don't directly work with the community, but I think we work with protocols which care a lot about the community, and we try to be as active in the community as possible, which is why we're, for example, on this Twitter space. it's good to like hear not just feedback from the protocols, but also the users, and try to understand how we as a audit firm can best respond to the needs of users. Because in the end, we're all serving users, right? We're all trying to do our best to make this place better for everyone.
Yeah. And if we feel safe, I think people will want to stick around. That's probably number one priority, right? Just to make people feel safe.
Exactly. Yeah. I think there's been a lot of negative attention in crypto lately with all the security issues, but yeah, one thing that we care strongly about is making sure that hopefully the protocols that we work with never have to deal with that. That's the goal.
There's also this idea of a Limby effect, right? The longer you've been around without dying, right? That's Bitcoin. The more people want to stick around. So
yeah.
Jeff,
I haven't heard of that specifically.
Yeah. Jeff, any thoughts? You still there, Jeff? No. Okay. Yeah. I mean, any other thoughts, Robert? We can wrap it up. We're running past the hour here, and we can bring you back up whenever you want. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
No, I think that's kind of it from my side. This is a really fun Twitter space, and yeah, thanks for having us on. It's great chatting about security with everyone.
Thank you for coming on, and we'll have you on back soon. We'll bring on more guests. Hopefully, we can get a comedian up here to do some open mic here. Yeah. But cool.
Pontem open mic.
Yeah, Pontem open mic. That'll be a late night commune activity.
We should do it. I'll give it a shot.
Yeah. 5 minutes max though, which is in case we bomb. Let's keep it short. Jeff, any thoughts? I see you there trying to go on and off mute. Maybe you're having audio issues. If not, okay. Well, Jeff, you're also welcome anytime. Anytime you want to come up, it's part of the community. Thank you for being there. Thank you all for listening in. Thank you all for asking questions. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Bye all.
Sounds good. Bye, everyone.
This is how you make it entertaining.
I'm your production manager. No, your live audience.
Yeah. Was it entertaining?
Of one. It was very entertaining.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, hopefully my stand-up comedy takes off.
At one point.
Oh, hold up. I'm still live on YouTube, so hold up. 1 sec. YouTubers are going to see this behind the scenes. Okay, end stream. All right.